Well. Hello, and welcome back to the Gaming Podcast, part of this season's DigiPride 2024. I am your host, a very under the weather Mia Bites, and today we're going to be diving into all manner of the most curiously captivating queer conversations on the web. Now, of course, this season of the podcast is tied in with our annual DigiPride celebrations, as we keep reminding you this DigiPride is presented by Jammer Games and sponsored by Devolver Digital and Wizards of the Coast, who we absolutely adore. So, if you want to find out what's left in this wonderful DigiPride season, you can head on over to gamingmag.com/DigiPride. Now, for this episode, please welcome my guest host. You see him, you love him. It's Robin Gray.
Hello, how are you? How's your voice?
It is hanging in
It's a
there.
voice.
It is struggle bussing. I am not gonna lie. Yeah, you're gonna be doing most of the talking today. That's pretty much what's
Not
what's
a
what's gonna
problem.
be happening.
You
But
can
how are
take it.
you?
I'm going to be ready for any kind of interpretive dance, any mime, anything you're going
Okay.
to do, and I will try
Yeah.
and
No, I
translate
mean, yeah. But I've got some puppets back there. I'm gonna pull
it.
out. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be absolutely fantastic. But today isn't about how sick I am. It's about how wonderful this DigiPride season is, and the things that we're going to talk about today. And what are we going to talk about today? Well, let's get into that. So, first released in the US in 1974. Can you believe it? 1974. More than 50 million people have played Dungeons and Dragons since then, making it one of the most popular role-playing games in the world. That's insane.
It's wild, isn't it? And to
Hmm.
celebrate this milestone, we've got a packed show of special guests. And
Hmm.
first up, I am delighted to welcome Wesley Schneider, a principal game designer for Dungeons and Dragons at Wizards of the Coast. Welcome to the show, Wes.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good.
Excellent. Did I get the name
Yes.
pronunciations right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah,
Yes.
100%.
Thank God.
Fantastic.
Thank God, because I would have butchered it. I butcher every name. It's just a thing that I do. But yeah, welcome onto the show. Hope you're having a fantastic day so far. And we were talking about this just before the show as well. But I'm absolutely loving your office, your background. Obviously, you've got your Dungeons and Dragons. You've got your retro 8-bit characters back there. But I also wanted
Mhm.
to ask, what's in the frame? What are the cards? There are those
That
cards.
is, let me shift the other way. That's one of the old school Ravenloft Taroka decks from second edition. That's just this. There's been more modern takes on the Taroka decks, but one of the things I love about the second edition one is there's just so many like blink and you'll miss it, like little creepy references in there. So hard to
Mm.
see at this distance there, but I absolutely loved it. I used it in all of my like Ravenloft games when I was coming up, and yeah, has a special place in my dark heart.
Oh, that's so cute. I absolutely love that you went and like framed all of those. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so thank you so much for joining us today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, to have someone such as yourself, a principal game designer for Dungeons and Dragons. That's so cool. So we're gonna kick this off. Why don't you give us a quick overview of who you are and what it's been like working on such an iconic brand such as D&D that's now 50 years old. The big 50.
So, well, thank you guys for the lovely introduction already. Like y'all said, I'm Wes Schneider. I'm a principal game designer on Dungeons and Dragons over at Wizards of the Coast. Been playing D&D for a minute, been working on D&D for a minute. Some of the first things that I worked on were a number of fan products for D&D back in the 90s. I was then an editor on Dragon Magazine back when magazines were a thing.
Way back when, yeah.
Yeah. After that, I went on with a bunch of friends and coworkers to be a co-creator on the Pathfinder role-playing game and campaign setting. From there, I did a lot of freelancing for D&D and other games, bounced around, and finally found a place at Wizards of the Coast. And I've been there working on 5th edition with an absolutely incredible team for the last 5-6 years. And it's been an absolute dream.
Oh my God. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. In that time, what would you say or have been like some of your highlights, some of your favorites for being during that entire period? Like, what sticks out to you? What speaks to you?
Oh, well, I mean, you already had me talking about the Taroka deck back there. So,
Yeah.
Ravenloft has been 100% like one of my favorite settings since I was in high school and college. So I was the lead on the new Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft. But since then, myself and Justice Armand were just leads on Planescape Adventures in the Multiverse, which was so cool. It was such a great opportunity, and I'm really so proud of how it came out. And I mean, getting to work on so many of these settings and like present them in ways that we feel like are new and exciting and will get folks who, of course, love these worlds and have been playing in them for like literally decades. Like, we absolutely like want to do right by them, but also there's so many folks who like weren't alive in the 80s. Wild, I know. But making sure that these like tent post Dungeons and Dragons experiences are there and are accessible and are available and are exciting for whole new players, whole new generations. That's been so fun and so interesting. So yeah, have absolutely loved that work. And it's also something that I can actually, in a rare case, I can actually mention what I'm working on now since it's been announced, but it's a take that we're taking with my current project, which is the update to the 5th edition Monster Manual, which we're also very excited about and folks are going to be hearing more about in the coming days and weeks.
Very exciting. We've spoken previously with other wonderful people at D&D, obviously Jeremy Crawford coming top of that list, and shout out to this year's gaming icon at the Gaming Awards, Jeremy Crawford. And we've asked the same question to him, so I'd like to ask it to you, which is, why do you think LGBTQ people gravitate so much to the world of D&D?
It's funny. I think almost every LGBTQ person that I know who's into gaming, their characters were out before they were. I know it's the case for me. I know it. I can probably rattle off a dozen friends who are like, oh yeah, same. And like it's so funny because so often there's sort of a like dipping the toe in. It's like, all right, I'm around my friends. Let me sort of, all right, what if a character who isn't me, but it's totally me, what if they did a thing? Well, what if they did that? What if they went a little further? What if they were more explicit? Okay, now we're making a new character. Now it's a little more overt, so on and so forth. Testing those waters, getting to experiment with something, getting to see if you're comfortable with it, like actually stepping into a role and experiencing it. I mean, that's role-playing games in general, but I think so many of us have through D&D not just got to... So many of us through D&D get to experience an idealized version of ourselves, and whether that's more of a power fantasy or that's more of a I wish I could be this, or maybe that's something even more out there. But I think it's so common for folks to use role-playing games as sort of a testing ground for that sort of thing, get comfortable, and then decide, okay, I can live this, I want to live this, and then they move on to doing it.
It's so interesting because like recently on the podcast, and I can't remember which podcast we were speaking about it on, but D&D came up like consistently. We were talking about like character creators in video games, and D&D came up as the example of the ultimate character creator, because there are no boundaries there. There are absolutely no boundaries, and the things that you can do, it's just, again, unlimited. So losing yourself in that world and being able to just be whoever you want to be, it, like, for me, I know that was always incredibly freeing for somebody who is trans, and couldn't necessarily like put myself out there like I wanted to when I was much younger, or didn't necessarily even understand aspects of myself at that age. Like, being able to just like escape into these characters is so absolutely freeing.
Absolutely. And
Mhm.
fantastically common. The number of folks that at conventions just tell sort of the same story. There's just this through line with just like, oh yeah, before I was out at all, it's like, all right, like maybe my character's bi, maybe my character's gay, maybe I'm gay. Like, it's just this interesting.
Maybe they've got the same name, which is just a coincidence.
I will say, like, my name now is technically a name that I gave a character in via character creation back in the day, but you know, that had nothing to do with anything. No, of course not. No, of course not.
Amazing.
I love that, and I know as well through previous conversations that Wizards of the Coast and D&D are full of LGBTQ people from the top to the bottom, and being able to sort of know that it's in kind of safe queer hands has always filled me with a certain amount of joy as well. So that's absolutely wonderful. We've seen lots of spin-off media starting to crop up, particularly in the last few years. The movie, Baldur's Gate 3, to name just a few. How does it feel to see these characters brought to life and interpretations from countless different artists and studios and all that sort of thing?
You know, it's always exciting from a perspective of this is going to be somebody's first experience with Dungeons and Dragons. Like, maybe they've heard of it before, or maybe they've heard something not so great from like the distant past or whatever have you, but now all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a movie. Oh no, there's a good movie. Oh, okay, cool. Oh, there's video. Oh, there's a new video game. Like, that sort of thing, where it's like it's opening up the brand to folks who might have never heard of it before, and then might go on to be like, oh, okay, I'm interested in this. Oh, there's D&D the books, there's D&D the website. Exactly. Cool, great. Maybe they find it that way. That's fantastic. But what's so funny is, like, you'll talk to so many creatives who are like, yeah, they're making movies, they're making comics, they're like writing novels or whatever have you. But every time, if they play D&D, if you get them talking about their D&D game, oh, like, forget what I'm compromising on with Netflix, or forget the like video games that I'm like making with like huge teams and whatnot. Let me tell you about my game, the game that I'm making, that I'm running for like me and my closest friends. Like, that's where you see like the real passion come up. So I mean, these films, these video games, all these other expressions, super exciting for folks that are finding the games. But it's always so great to see when you have these creatives who are like, yeah, but still, let me tell you about like my tabletop story, what I'm running with my friends. That's always so cool. So like, we love to see these. And it's great to see those like these massive expressions, but it's still always so cool to see folks who are doing these big things like in front of thousands still get so excited about just like, but let me tell you about the real story at my
it's the homebrew, isn't it? Like, that's
absolutely.
Yeah, it's the
I love that.
I love the fact that, as you say, that the creators are the biggest people that are putting in things in front of millions of people actually really just care about that one little thing that they created for their home table.
What's amazing to me, because D&D has been around for 50 years. It's had so much influence on like other media as well. I'm a massive fan of like Final Fantasy, and I know for a fact that in the very early days, a lot of the monsters, a lot of the things that went into Final Fantasy are all lifted from D&D, which is just fantastic to think about, and how that's evolved under like a different lens, from a different cultural lens, and what that's evolved into now, and knowing that without Dungeons and Dragons, it might not exist at all, or at least not in the same way. So that's so interesting. I also wanted to point out, I've not seen the movie yet, but I did see a scene of a heist that they like a heist on a carriage that there's a particular clip that I watched, and I could not, like, if the rest of the film is like that, I've never seen something that so represents an actual D&D campaign than what I've seen out of that movie so far. It seems like you could tell there's so much love and passion for Dungeons and Dragons that's gone into that, and I'm very excited to actually watch the whole film when I get a chance. But yeah, so much has happened in this last 50 years. There's so much, and not just talking about spin-off media, but like how encompassing this is, and how much influence it has had. What do you think the next 50 years, and obviously 50 years is a long time, but like the next 50 years, so 2074, like up until 2074, which is, again, insane to think about. What do you think that's going to look like for Dungeons and Dragons?
Well, I hope we can schedule something for 50 years out. We can get this.
Yeah, no, totally. We'll be back here
Yeah.
in 50 years
Yes.
to talk
Yeah.
about it. So
Uh,
Yeah.
we'll take
I'll be
down your
80
predictions now, and we'll see what came true.
I'll be 88, but I'll be here ready for it.
nice, cool, great. You know what? Honestly, this is the sort of thing where, in a lot of ways, I think it'll be the same. Honestly, you know, I started playing in high school and college. My best times and my best memories playing D&D are actually playing D&D, or like actually getting my friends together, being hopefully in the same place, telling stories for not dozens or hundreds or thousands or millions of people, telling stories for like 4 people, and telling the stories that are meaningful to us, that are the imaginative elements that are on our minds, the things we care about, exploring the things that they want to explore through their characters. That's always been so much of the magic of D&D. Not that it's this media thing where, like, oh, maybe you identify with 1 or 2 elements of it, that you're playing with your friends, and the things that matter to you are the stories that you're telling. I mean, honestly, if I have one of my biggest hopes for Dungeons and Dragons in the next 50 years is honestly that maybe things get a little sloppier. Like, just play. Like, I hear so many folks now who are just like, ooh, I don't have the right lighting package to DM, or I feel like I don't have enough of the programs, or like we don't have the perfect space. Like, play in your car. Like, half remember the rules. Like, have the wrong whatever. Just get your friends together and play. That's sort of the, like, I love how popular D&D is. All of that's fantastic, but really I want folks to feel like it doesn't have to be intimidating, that it doesn't have to be like a whole lifestyle choice. You don't need to have the miniatures and the setup and the programs and so on and so forth. You can just get some of your friends together.
Oh my God.
You can start telling a story. And
I feel like there's something to that as well, like quick start D&D, like a little booklet just to get people into it as well, you know.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
like, yeah, just a little game you can play, rather than just making it a whole thing, because like a lot of people like so bogged down now, again, like you say, to have all of the programs. But when it started out, you literally would have those same experiences where you would play it anywhere. You play in a dingy basement, you play it like on your friend's like front room. So absolutely, yeah. People need to just be cooler about it. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's also like folks get so. It's definitely a lot. You can get in your own head, particularly if you're a DM. You want it to be perfect. You've definitely got an audience there. I get it, but it's the sort of thing where sort of just jumping in, sort of just allowing yourself to be messy, allowing it to go wrong, and like knowing that your story is never going to be the story. It's going to be the story that your entire group comes up with. So throw your idea out there, see what the rest of the players at the table take away from it, and then they're going to shoot it off in a completely different direction than you were ever expecting anyway. So just roll with it. And at the end, like, it's the only thing that's important, that is that, you know, the folks had fun playing, and hey, maybe you got a few like interesting quotes, good memories, and maybe even something that's meaningful to you and your group out of it.
That's a t-shirt right there. D&D, just roll with it.
Just roll with it.
Just roll with it.
And also, I suppose, I suppose it's the ultimate. It's the ultimate game of improv, really, isn't it? Wesley, good luck with the next 50 years. I look forward to be back here with you in 2074. And thanks for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Wes.
Bye. Wonderful.
What a lovely, lovely individual. Yeah, with a lot of insight, obviously, but like I still can't believe it's been 50 years, like, and how much is like has changed. Like, think of how much it's influenced. We wouldn't have Stranger Things if it weren't for D&D.
I was literally sitting here thinking Stranger Things when you said about people playing in the basement.
Yeah.
More guests on?
Yeah, let's get some more guests on. We're going to continue the birthday celebration of Dungeons and Dragons. We're going to welcome our other awesome guests. It's none other than Urban Bohemian, AwkwardishPanda, and JustRyan.
Hey, how are we all doing?
Hello.
Hiya.
Beautiful
Welcome
human
to
beings.
the birthday party.
Welcome. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Yeah, great.
Okay. Good. So, yeah, well, let's just dive into stuff. We're going to kick this off with a simple question for each of you. Tell us about your first game of D&D. How long ago was it? And yeah, any interesting stories? We can go down the line. Let's start with Brian.
It's kind of funny because people keep saying D&D is 50 years old, which makes me remember that I am older than D&D, and it's very sobering.
It crumbles into dust.
I know, it's fine. I'm holding up well, as is the game, so it's all good. My first experience with it, it was in the late 70s, early 80s, and it was in elementary school. We were playing, I think at that point it was first edition, so it was like the player's handbook that has like that big demon on the cover in like the cauldron, and I was horrible at it. It had way too much math. And I was expecting a fun fantasy game, and I was like, I can't. Anyone who's played those older editions like understands, like, if you say to hit AC 0 or THAC0 to somebody, they will have a visceral reaction. So it was a lot of fun.
I don't even know what that is, and I just had a visceral reaction.
So. Yeah, it's like, don't look it up. But yeah, it was fun because, like, even as Wes says, like, our friends got together. And we got together over a shared love of this, and it was still amid the satanic panic in the 80s, but at the same time, we were still getting like that Dungeons and Dragons cartoon was a little ways off, but it was just a lot of fun to get together with friends and play the game. Even if we weren't playing it well, we were still having fun.
Yeah, heck yeah. Ryan, I know you're. Are you more recent to Dungeons and Dragons?
Yeah, I'm like very new. So I only heard about it through Stranger Things. That was like the first time I ever heard of Dungeons and Dragons. And then I was watching a friend stream called Gothica Love. She's a LGBT streamer, and she was playing this game called Baldur's Gate 3. And I was like, this looks really fun. I don't know if I'm going to enjoy this. And I got hooked. I got instantly hooked. I couldn't stop playing it. I still play it. I have like 12 different games going on at the same time. And then I obviously knew it was like to do with D&D. So I did like my first little D&D campaign with like my community, and everyone can sign up. We do it in the Discord. And it was meant to be like a one-shot campaign. So it was meant to be like 2 hours long. Yeah, we still haven't finished it. That was about a month or so, 2 months ago, and we still haven't finished it. And I just really enjoy it. I think it's so fun that you can really do anything in this game. It's up to you how you want the story to run, and obviously working with like the DM to allow the way that you want your story to run as well. Yeah, and I've been really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, I can't wait to hear more about this this one shot that you've been having. I'll come back to you on that because I want to hear more about the story and everything about that. But Panda, tell me about your first D&D, your first time
I'll get to that in a second,
in
but it's on
D&D, in
brand real
D&D
quick.
specifically.
Show of hands who's been in that one shot that never ended. That just became a thing. It happens so often. It's a thing. 2019,
It's a
it was
trap. You
late.
have to be careful.
Yes. Late 2018, early 2019 was my first game. My nephew was born Thanksgiving weekend of 2018, and I went down to help out for a couple of weeks. And the only thing that would make him go to sleep was Taliesin Jaffe's Caduceus voice. So they were binge watching Critical Role, which I had no clue what it was. And then like 3 or 4 weeks later, we got a flyer from our local library that they were doing a how to play D&D. And I was like, okay, fine, I'll give, because my husband played for a very long time. Let's go learn 5th edition. And it was over after that.
Oh my goodness, that's so cute. So you approached it by going to essentially D&D lessons. How did that go for you? Like how was that a bit intimidating at the time, or was it very welcoming? Or
it was very, very welcoming. It's actually shout out to Casting Whimsy T. They were opening a store, and he was planning on doing T&D nights at the store, so he wanted to get more people in the community playing. And it was just a random thing he did. He goes, I'll give everybody free tea and have everybody come out and play like a quick 1 hour one shot in small groups and teach people the basics of the game.
That sounds amazing, honestly.
And they're still doing T&D even this much longer. They moved it online for the pandemic, and once they were able to reopen the store, they turned around and went right back to a larger store with more room for people to play.
I want
to be fair, I did D&D lessons as well. Believe it or not.
I've not. Wait, we're Robin. Wait. Whoa. You've played D&D?
No. I just did the lessons.
I mean, technically, if you did lessons, then you technically played D&D. But how did that
little
go
bit,
for you?
but-
When was this, and how did that go for you? Because I've never. Hold on. Sorry, you're blowing my mind here because I didn't think you touched D&D. But go on, tell me about that.
I feel like I had to. No, so where we both live, in Birmingham in the UK, Birmingham Gamers with a Y. Shout out to them and shout out to Chris. They are a tabletop kind of gaming meetup, and obviously they're the ones that very much kind of grab a game, play for a bit, get some drinks down here, etc. And then I think there was kind of a general sort of feeling that there was enough people that would be interested in learning how to do D&D. And so they kind of took over a cafe for a Sunday afternoon, broke us all into sort of small tables, had like 5 teachers, 5 leaders, whatever. And they walked you through, literally, the first 2 hours was just walking you through the sheet, walking you through how stuff happened. And it wasn't really like a jump in moment. It was like, here's how we're going to design everything and what all these things mean, etc., etc. So that's what I mean by I haven't actually played it, because I spent 3 hours working through how to do the math and do sheets. And then somebody told me he had an app, and I was like, we could have just done that. And missed that 3 hours.
Okay.
So I haven't actually played it, but
we need to change that.
I was then the usual sucker and bought all the books and everything else. So I've got like all the stuff, and I've got die, and I've got things, and just haven't actually played it yet.
We should change that. We should change that. So. We will change that. We're gonna make sure that you at some point do it at like a little mini one shot or something. I feel like that would be perfect for you. In fact,
I'm down.
Have I ever explained how I first played D&D?
No.
I don't think I have. No. You know what? This is actually kind of an interesting story. So mine is back in the height of the pandemic, like 2020, right? Wonderful friend of mine, voice actor for multiple games, Lucas Schuneman, massive D&D nerd. I came to him. I was like, you know what? I've seen a lot of stuff about D&D recently, and I wanted to maybe like do a one shot or something. And he was like, okay, well, I'm just gonna throw you in somewhere. We're just gonna quickly like randomly assign you a character just by using dice throws, which was a really interesting experience actually. and I was just thrown into this scenario where I essentially was trying to sneak through a dungeon with kobolds, I think it was at the time, and I ended up inevitably being caught and brought to their dragon leader, who was like a really like weird kind of like layabout, very, I don't know if it was Californian, like, oh yeah, guys, I'm like I'm a dragon and stuff, like with that kind of voice. And I was there to like steal the treasure, right? I was there to steal the treasure. So the way I did it was like, keep in mind this was the height of the pandemic. My character very successfully managed to convince the dragon that there was an airborne virus going around, and the whole place had been infected. So I need to clear out all the kobolds, clear out the dragon for a period of at least several weeks, and they could go do something else. And whenever that was done, then they could come back. So yeah, I successfully managed to clear out the entire dungeon of kobolds and this dragon because I rolled a few times very successfully on convincing them to get out, and that was hilarious at the time and such a great introduction to the game. And it was just like a wonderful, wonderful story that I'm telling you to you now. So that was my first D&D experience, and I absolutely adored it. I still want to do more stuff. I've done a couple one-shots since then, but I definitely want to do more myself as
I'd
well.
actually like to play the game rather than sitting for 3 hours in a cafe getting cold, going through a worksheet, which made me feel like I was back at school.
We'll figure that out. We'll have to have a gaming one shot at some point and we'll drag you into that to make sure that you have some D&D experience. That'll be quite the show. It'll all be around your introduction to D&D. It'll be great. It'll be great.
I'm not the best yes and kind of person either. That's my problem.
Yes,
and so we asked Wesley the same question, and there was kind of that through line going through everything of how queer people can find themselves, can really experiment with their characters. But what is it? This is an open question. Anyone can jump in. What was the big attraction to D&D for everyone here, being LGBTQ? Anyone can jump in. I'll pick on you if you don't.
I don't think I jumped in because of an LGBTQ issue, like, or desire. I think I just jumped in because I was already very open and very out and whatever. I jumped into it for the fun of being able to role play and get together with friends, and a lot of my friends were just getting into it. My oldest kid was just getting into it, and it was, hey, we need a DM and you have a writing degree, sit down.
Do your job.
I love that Panda can say, you know, that they got into it later because like D&D has evolved to really encourage all kinds of stories. When I started playing, for me, it was just being able to exist in that fantasy world, or honestly any fictional universe, seeing like representation. When I started playing a lot of different games, you know, like, people of color were barely welcome at tables, let alone LGBTQ plus folks. So you just being able to know that, okay, now we can sit down, you know, I can be at a table of everyone who's queer, everyone who's a person of color, and we can tell those stories and nobody questions it. Nobody makes a weird joke or a punchline out of you existing in these worlds as a queer person. That to me, like the collaborative storytelling, but knowing that it was with people who were willing to tell those like progressive and diverse stories was a big draw to come back to the hobby.
And
Go.
Sorry, no, go ahead, Robert.
No, I was just about to sort of ask Ryan. Like,
I was literally okay. Ryan, I actually wanted to throw this over to you as well, because obviously you said Baldur's Gate 3 was kind of like your entry point there. That's very gay. That game is very gay. Did that have any influence on your interest in Dungeons and Dragons, or?
So I went into that game like fully not knowing what it was. I really didn't know there was like dice rolling in it. Like I just watched people. I didn't know what it was. I didn't know what Baldur's Gate was, as in like the place of Baldur's Gate. Yeah, it's very gay. That game is very gay. And I like that there's so many different choices that you can make and the way that your choices affect the story. I think that's what I really like. I'm a person who like the first game I ever played was The Sims, which is like character creation. You live a life, you create that life. And I feel like games like that wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Dungeons and Dragons, a game where you can create your own characters. I think a game that has like great character creation and the ability to just be whoever you want to be, wherever you want to be, and tell your own story in it, I think is a game that's going to keep thriving, and it just really like intrigues me. So I think that's why I just grew this love for Baldur's Gate or even D&D so much.
It's
Absolutely.
interesting what Wes was saying about how people sort of use D&D as a way of kind of experimenting and sort of trying some stuff out softly. And I do, and sorry in advance, Brian, I do think maybe a generational thing where when you're of an age where kind of being out and proud and being kind of that kind of bold, it wasn't as socially permitted. So the ability to kind of like tiptoe around in that world, like, absolutely, yeah, in many ways. Whereas you come down to kind of like the other end of the scale with sort of relatively new entrants like Ryan, that sort of is more just in a modern age of just like, yeah, we can just do that. I can walk out my front door and be that if I want. But it's interesting how that kind of sliding scale between it's a place where I can express myself, where I can't express myself.
It's interesting. It seems to have gone from like escapism to experimentation. Yeah. Does that make sense, or is that too is that dumb it down a little bit too much, maybe, possibly?
I don't know. I really agree with Wes in that a lot of people were using, Dungeons and Dragons and other tabletop role-playing games too, and weirdly, even video games, like anything that has a character creator that lets you kind of look through somebody else's eyes as that means of discovering their own identity and self-expression. So I do agree. But yeah, for me now, as an older person, thank you, Robin. You
look great for it, by the way. When you said that you're old as D&D, like I was amazed. You look so good. Can I just say, for the audio listeners out there, you're missing out.
Yes, you can say it a lot. It's fine. But I love that I'm able to jump back into the hobby now, because I walked away from it for a long time just because it was not. What's funny is like we talk about the hobby, but realizing that the text of D&D has always had that flexibility built in. It's the players of D&D that tried to lock it into this little box that if it wasn't what they didn't like, then you couldn't play. It's just now people are coming to the game and they're realizing that, yeah, you really can tell any story you want with your table, and that's fine. So that's the joy of coming back to the hobby for me now, is that, yeah, like I don't have to pretend that, oh, only my character is gay. I'm just, I just rolled it up and that's what's going on. I love that.
Yeah. And quick, like you mentioned, like video games also character creators. Shout out to my female, my femshep, Mass Effect 3 femshep character called Mia. Right, let's switch gears a little bit here, and let's talk about something that we talked about in past podcasts when we've had you on as guests before. Some of the best memories from your D&D campaigns, and it doesn't have to necessarily be the same ones that you mentioned before. It could be something else. It could be something that you've experienced since then. But yeah, actually, you know what? Let's start with the reverse order. Let's go with Ryan. You're new to the podcast. What have been some of the best memories from your D&D experiences so far?
Oh my god. I mean, in terms of like playing, like if I was going to say Baldur's Gate, I mean, obviously I've only done like really a one shot. I think experiencing with my community the moments that happen in that game were the best. There's a lot of saucy scenes in that game, so seeing my community kind of go wild in the chat for that stuff, that was probably the funniest moments I've had, because I also didn't know it was gonna happen, so I'm reacting in like real time to what's going on. Those are probably the funniest moments, and it probably in my one shot was finding out the secrets that other characters are revealing that I didn't know that they were going to reveal what their character had. Like, I think it's really cool that people, when it comes to D&D, really go in depth with the character creation and a whole backstory, and then finding it out in real time, and you get a reaction. You're like, oh, you're shocked by it. So yeah.
Could you give me an example of that? Like what shocked you?
One of the characters in a one shot was someone who would steal. They had a little black kitten in a backpack, and it was a displacer kitten that they keep, but they were stealing people's souls to feed the kitten, but they had to go outside the door, and they did it in secret. But I was sitting there like, not my character. I was like, this is weird. Something's going on. And then obviously my character's finding it out. And eventually when we found out what was going on, it was like this, you're like evil. Like, what is going on kind of moment. So it's stuff like that I think is like really funny.
Absolutely. That sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. Panda, what about yourself? Do you have any like new moments you want to share, or old moments?
I haven't had a whole lot of new ones lately because I haven't been playing much outside of like our home campaign, which just got started. My oldest is 26 and is DMing her first campaign.
Oh my god, that's so cute.
Yeah, it's so she set herself up her own DM screen. It's wild. She's like thrown herself headfirst into it, and I'm very, very proud. But I can't remember the ones I was talking about last time, but one I was thinking about this morning actually involves Herb with our first of the food themed one shots with DC when we got stuck in the alchemy jug.
The alchemy jug.
And we had to face the mayonnaise golem.
Oh, that was
and
disgusting.
Then somebody donated for all of those wild magic surges. And then somebody dumped 6 of I rolled the one where I had to roll 10.
Yeah.
Sorry, so for those that may not be familiar with this campaign, could you briefly give a brief overview of what this campaign is?
Mayonnaise and...
Okay, so first, huge shout out to DC Lacer in chat. Wonderful producer and DM. He's amazing. Please hire this man for D&D shows because he's great. He had a one shot that was all food themed to start with. And it was, we were going to get stuck in an alchemy jar. And if you know about the game and what an alchemy jar can do, it can produce like 7 or 8 different things at various different amounts: water, oil, vinegar, acid, beer, mayonnaise. And we were basically falling through the levels of the jar. And then it became a whole food themed series of one shots for charity. That our last one was very recent. We did Electrum Chef, where it's an Iron Chef spinoff. It was so fun. Where we had a secret ingredient from the D&D world and we had to come up with, 3-course meal for it. It was amazing. But I remember that fight specifically because it was so chaotic, because somebody donated for all of us to do a wild magic surge. And when you do wild magic surges, there's a couple of different things that I think I rolled it was like a 100 or something. It was like a very specific number. And then I had to roll 10 more. Mm-hmm. So on every round through the big boss fight at the end, I was rolling a wild magic surge. And I turned blue. I suddenly couldn't talk. I had bubbles coming out of my mouth. Now she's a very tall Azamar in an ocean of mayonnaise fighting a mayonnaise golem. So she's got her wings out. So they're covered in mayonnaise. She's covered in mayonnaise from head to toe. She's 50 feet tall, turned blue, bubbles coming out of her mouth, music swirling around her. And it's
trapped
like
in
every
a jar.
turn is I'm trying to fight this monster with everybody else. And it was so much comedy and it was so funny. And Herb was there for it with one of his characters that's been playing in that series of one shots as well. And it was the best kind of chaos. And I don't think I've laughed that hard in a very long time.
I can't even begin to imagine, but I kind of want to go back and watch this now. I feel like I'm missing out incredibly.
It is on DC's YouTube.
Oh my god! Yeah, we'll send you a link when this is done. It's so fun.
Yeah,
please do. Herb, what about yourself? Is it food related? Is it trapped in a jar with the gang, or?
I will say it's funny that Panda mentions that because I think my best memories are probably from a longer running show that I did. But to think about charity one shots, the fun of them is that because a lot of them, they are one shots that are generally intended to stay one shots, but we're also doing charity donations during them. And if the GM and players are willing, those charitable donations can affect the game. And yeah, as Panda said, we were at the big boss fight moment, and we're trying to ready ourselves to do this, and someone in chat said, actually, no, have a bunch of chaos when you're trying to do the thing.
I'm pretty sure it was Cypher. It was Cypher or Mandy for sure.
So
sounds about right.
those are always fun. I think though, like for me, my reintroduction to D&D was coming back and playing in the actual play show Rivals of Waterdeep. And I was on that show for 6 seasons. I created a character especially for it. Eugenio Vargas, who's been on this podcast with me before, we actually kind of created our characters together. And it was a lot of fun. I initially said no because I hadn't played D&D in so long, but also because it was on Sundays and that kind of did my brunch time. But I worked it out. It's fine. And it was all people of color. There was queer representation in the game, and we got to tell a lot of different stories. We actually traded off GMs every season, so we each got to tell a different story. And the best thing is, I mean, the best/worst thing is that our story actually had an end that we kind of decided what the ending was going to be. It didn't just keep playing out forever. I have a lot of really great memories about like everything that I got to do in that show, coming back to D&D, and just kind of how it has helped shaped me and how I look at D&D, how I make characters, how I engage with the game. It really brought back the love of the hobby that like I said, I was kind of done with D&D for years, and that really brought it all back.
Oh, that's so cute. Like that moment of like bringing you together with all these other wonderful people, re-sparking that joy in your heart. That's so freaking wholesome. I love that.
So yeah, I mean, so we've done the wholesome bit and we've done the kind of best memories and everything else. What's the gayest thing you've ever done in D&D?
Glix. One word
Comment on
answer.
it like
Glix.
I was like, is that you who you've been or who you've done?
That's my
Thank you,
well.
bitch.
That's my gender fluid Eladrin druid who literally is what would happen if Lisa Frank puked up a D&D character.
Do you
She
say
was the
gender
gayest
fluid
thing.
Eladrin Druid a lot? Because it rhymes really well.
I had to say it so much. And it was fully by accident that rhymed as well as it did. Somebody said it to me and I was like, oh God, here we go. Now it's a shtick. So the way we had her set up, and I say her because she was mostly in her spring form, was her gender changed with the seasons. So like in summer she was non-binary, and summer was when she was in rage mode. It's when she was angry. I wanted to specifically say that rage was not a gendered thing. It was valid across the spectrum. I tried to tell a story with her. Like winter was he, him, because he was a moody boy. And summer was, and spring was she, her, because she was a bi-panic disaster. But I came into the thing with an established relationship with an NPC. And the story behind it was that they had started in a really weird place because they were very much in love, but because they had such significantly different lifespans, they struggled as a relationship because the one knew they were going to lose the other eventually. So it just became this whole thing. And she was just the gayest thing on earth. And I love her. She's my favorite character I've ever played.
That's pretty gay. I feel like that
Yeah.
encompasses the question itself. What's the gayest thing? Just all of the gay. This character, just all of the gay.
Literally.
And I love the fact that the summer with the they them creating mayhem. That's just the perfect thing.
Yeah.
Ryan, go on then. In the shortest amount of time that you've been playing, but what's the gayest thing you've done in D&D?
I don't even know if I have an answer. Sleeping with another man as my character, that's probably it. I guess that's probably the gayest thing I've done. I don't think.
Well,
I haven't had that much
there's more
experience.
opportunities.
Oh,
you
yes.
get so much inspiration from Panda,
Right.
I imagine on all of this. So do try harder.
Many more queer disasters to come. It's going to be amazing. Don't you worry.
Exactly. Can you narrow it down to kind of one thing, or have we got quite a lot to talk about?
I actually do have a list over it. No, I think for my character in Rivals of Waterdeep, just like have a boyfriend, husband, get married in game, become like first husbands of a ward in a city in the game, and then when we've played these characters, because we decided together that they would be a couple, being in other games and having them treated, having their love for each other treated as like a good thing, but also by villains as a liability for each other, was kind of interesting. And also have a character, Sylvester, that I bring to one shots. Sylvester is the most over the top, like out and proud, legitimately gay, flirty, full of themselves, but also not, like, just to be an entire queer mess as a character. And that for me is the most fun. More of the games that I play in don't have like spicy scenes. Like, we generally like let that kind of fade to black. But yeah, in my like home D&D games, we generally don't shy away from any of that. But again, because we're all friends around the table, we keep it to like good flirting, and just a lot of it's more implied. But yeah, just being able to do that in a game, like, yeah, I think the gayest thing I've done is be gay, which is like great.
Absolutely. No, I think it's the number one thing, the thing we keep talking back on, like the ability to just do that in a game, as you say, is
It's so interesting because like for me, the D&D campaigns that I've had, like my characters, like I've never actually thought about their sexuality. It's so like, not that it's odd to me. I'm demi, so like I'm on the ROA spectrum, so it never really occurs to me to think about who would this character be like interested in, or even sleep. Maybe that's just me not developing my characters enough. Maybe that's that.
more backstory.
But you know, yeah. I need to factor that into the backstory next time. Maybe they've had a lover. Maybe they've had like several lovers. Maybe they were queer as hell. Who knows? But yeah, I definitely need to think about that. Speaking of thinking about more queer things, so what would you like to see D&D, Dungeons and Dragons in general, as you know, as an IP, do to like celebrate LGBTQ stories and lives? Is there anything else that you'd want them to like come out and do? Do you want like official handbooks that are just the queerest thing, or you know, do you just want to see more official characters which are canonically queer? Like, what would you want to see? Anybody can jump in on that. Like, yeah.
I just didn't want to talk over everybody because I jumped
say,
so
go
hard
for
with
it.
laughing.
Okay.
I think that they should just, in general, in the modules, in the books, have more just naturally existing queer stories, like, you know, like Brian and Eugenio's characters from Rivals. They exist in the world as the first husbands of a warden Waterdeep, which is a canon D&D setting. It's not that difficult to just include stuff like that. Like, it's a perfectly normal thing that you should be able to see every single day. And then outside of it, it is sponsor more queer D&D content in general, because I know they don't sponsor a lot of shows anymore, but it's always, when they do, you often see the same people over and over and over again. It costs exactly nothing but some time to find the smaller queer focused shows and boost them. Be like, hey, this is an all queer cast that's all people of color. You should go watch this show. Doing that from an official D&D account will do more for that show than to like just throw a little bit of money at them.
Yeah.
You know, just getting the exposure for these shows to say, hey, this is good content. Go watch it. I think that would do a huge amount as well. But other than that, it's just make being queer a natural part of D&D. Because there's other settings where queer is the default and they make no big deal of it.
We spoke, and I think, Mia, it's just pinged off in my brain. The episode of the podcast you're referring to where you talked about Baldur's Gate was the player sexual, pansexual episode with my arm. I just dropped my camera. And I think it kind of, that comes back to what you were saying, Panda, around if you give people the option to be gay or bi, pan, lesbian, whatever, then people have the choice not to be. Whereas I think actually if you kind of like push it down a certain route, like, this is your character, this is this is that, this is the person that you got to deal with, this is the NPC, this is the husbands who are the wardens of wherever, and it's just kind of, that is the kind of, I think, more of that doesn't shy away from the storyline. It's always good.
Yeah, I want that real representation. And like, again, this is kind of getting off topic, but I like, even in D&D or even in the settings, I want that real representation. I want an angry lesbian that doesn't want anything to do with a guy, that just doesn't want to touch a guy, and that's, you know, maybe that's like part of her story or her background or whatever. But yeah, I want to see that in all of my media. Like, I think it's It's cowardice not to include queer characters that are exclusively queer. I want to see more demi characters, honestly. I want to see a broad range of the spectrum. Sorry, this isn't about me
Go, just
now.
go. No, go. You got this. Go.
True, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, Ryan, what about you? What more do you want to see?
I agree with what Panda said. I feel like a more broad spectrum of like sexuality and gender identity in D&D, supporting queer creators, not just for Pride Month, all the time as well would be great. I think it needs to be more of a thing now than ever with all that's going on in the world right now. So yeah, I agree with everything that Panda said. That's probably what I was going to say. So yeah.
Hit the nail on the head. And,
Yeah.
what about you?
I mean, I also agree. I would love if in future setting books, or as they kind of re-examine, Wes talked about them re-examining the monster manual, if they do things in the player handbook to, other TTRPGs, one in particular would always refer to the player as she in the player handbook. Like that was the default, versus saying, oh, your character, he, it was always she, just because. And also because this is a game that sits on a huge amount of lore, inject those characters into the lore. Make it so that these people have always been here. And that can be, that can be NPCs. It can be huge major characters. And, being queer is not everything of who we are, but it's a huge part of who we are. And it's very easy to include that as a facet of a character's identity. And you may not have to interact with that way in any part of them, but all of a sudden you find out that, that character is Ace, or you find out that, she has a wife, and it doesn't affect your gameplay at all. I mean, and if it does, then maybe you're not at the right table.
Well, that's on you, exactly.
Yeah. Like, this is the thing as well. It's like, so people get so bent out of shape about taking existing characters and like making them queer, like without thinking that, people exist and evolve over time anyway, and not everybody who thinks that they're straight now will necessarily be straight tomorrow. And I get it. Sometimes it can be annoying and like easy representation just to pop that in there, but like it's still equally as valid as anything else, like just make sure it's woven into the universe and it's part of the universe. It's as simple as that, really. Exactly, like you've hit the nail on the head there. Just like change that lore. It literally hurts no one. And like, well, except for the mountains of angry fans that'll be like, it's not there in the lore. Where does it say that in the lore? But other than them, and that's a very small vocal minority. Most
it's
people...
the minority that like to Twitter.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the minority. They're just very, very loud about it.
They are loud. They are very loud.
Yeah. Moving the topic on, then, we've said it a few times, Baldur's Gate 3. We mentioned the movie with the lovely Chris Pine and Reggie John Page, amongst other cast members as well, apparently, with that. And so D&D has inspired all these amazing spin-off media, from films to video games. What have been some of your favorite spin-off?
You can't say the classic cartoon, because that's everybody's favorite. So
I think I get to say it because out of anyone here, I watched it like first. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna go to you first, Herb, and you can say.
I mean, I do love that original cartoon. And it's funny because I always count this as like D&D related, even though technically it's not. Somebody in chat already mentioned the movie Mazes and Monsters, starring a very young Tom Hanks, and they were trying to make this almost like an after-school lesson movie of, oh, this is what happens when your friends get too into Dungeons and Dragons. They go a little off the rails, but it's so bad that it's good. And that kind of defined D&D movies. Like the original Dungeons and Dragons film, again, it's not great, but it's a fantastic watch. And so I love the movies a lot. I've played all the video games that have come out, and they have been very like not great old school games, like, but they've never lost the turn base, which Baldur's Gate still has. It's just Baldur's Gate gets to be really spicy and gay, and I love that about it. And yes, also the OG cartoon, because it started me. I realized my love of isekai anime comes probably because I just loved that cartoon so much.
Oh my god, it's totally an isekai. You're right. Oh my god, I feel like that happened a lot in the
Gotcha.
80s.
See?
To be fair, yeah, yeah. It's interesting that you mentioned like that specific movie. I think one of my core memories of like anything D&D related is like there's this awful a very short film that I think was made by like a Christian group or something, very much like this girl gets involved with D&D and then all of a sudden she's going to like satanic meetings and things,
my
and it's
goodness.
the most over the top funniest thing that I think, unintentionally funny thing that I think I've ever seen. And there's like breakdowns of it on YouTube. Definitely,
was-
I wish I knew what it was called.
That was
But yeah.
handed. That was a religious tract that was handed out a lot when I was younger, and it was supposed to be, I think, like Dark Demons or something, and it was supposed to talk about she got into playing D&D, and that led her down into Satanism, and then somebody actually made a parody movie of it, and it is fantastic.
Awesome. I'm gonna have to watch that. That sounds amazing. Panda, what about you? What's your favorite spin-offs of D&D?
I think I'm going to go with like the really, really obvious current one, and that's The Legend of Vox Machina. But I'm going to be very specific as to why. It's not just because it's Critical Role. Critical Role was my main introduction to D&D as it is now. But I have aphantasia. I can't picture anything in my head. So all I can do is listen to the story. So now to have a visual representation of 115 episodes of D&D that I listened to when I was home during the pandemic at the very beginning with my then 5-year-old who had been sent home from kindergarten with no guidance other than a Chromebook and a note that literally just said good luck. I was stuck in the house all day, every day, nowhere to go because I'm immunocompromised, stuck at home. It gave me something to listen to. So there was at least someone around that was an adult, because my partner is an essential worker. He does internet installs. And as you can imagine, with everyone at home, he was working 12-hour days all day, every day. So, having the ability to actually see what everyone else can kind of see in their head is just very, very cool to me.
That's absolutely fantastic that you got to have that. But can we just like think about this for a second, that a show that was an internet show that started off as like a spin-off from like I think it was a Geek and Sundry show originally? Yeah. And like a very small show with a bunch of like voice actors in there who work in Los Angeles, then managed to take that, grow so huge that then they had their own spin-off animated series on Amazon Prime. That's absolutely amazing to me. And like, I can and
the cherry on the cake for them must be obviously being nominated for the Gaming Award as well. Which they are in our new entertainment category.
Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Now, Ryan, what's your favorite spin-off and why is it Baldur's Gate 3?
I would, to be honest, I actually don't think I can pick one because I like the movie. I watched the movie and I fell in love with that. Baldur's Gate 3 I do love, but the reason why is I've never played a game where it instantly became one of my favorite games. That is like my favorite game. So I do love that game, but the most recent thing that D&D have done is collaborate with Dead by Daylight.
Oh yes!
So for me,
I forgot about that.
That was like a huge like fangirling on stream moment. Like I predicted that months ago. I said it'd be really cool if like Dead by Daylight did like a collab with Dungeons and Dragons, but they'll never do it. And then they did it, and I was like, oh, okay. So that was like a huge deal for me. That was like really exciting.
I know almost nothing about this collaboration. I know that it involves Vecna. That's about it. Like, how does that work out? Is it like a specific mode, or is it just a new killer with new areas? Or
so Vecna is a new killer.
Okay.
And there are 2 new survivors that are under like one survivor. There's like the way they made the survivor is it's a bard that is an original character by DBD, but it is licensed by D&D. And the bard, you can choose either an elf, a female elf, or a male human. And the way that they've done it is very like, they wanted it to represent the way that you can like customize your character in D&D. And there's a new map, which is meant to be Vecna's Forgotten Realm. It's meant to be like his alchemy, where he's come to like find out what's going on, and it's really, really cool. And it's really exciting, and I think it's got a lot of like people who are now, players of DBD to go and look at what D&D was and who Vecna is. I know that a lot of people, when that got released, they're like, who is Vecna? Is that Stranger Things? And they're like, I'm like, no, that's from
that's the other Dead by Daylight crossover.
Right.
Yes.
So no, but it's really, really cool, and it's a lot of fun. I've been enjoying it. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
I just shared a link in chat to an article that we did that wrapped up all of the DBD's 8th anniversary surprises, because obviously Dungeons and Dragons was kind of first off the rank when we were writing stuff out. And there's stuff in there, as you said, Brian, about like a new map. But there's also a dice rolling sort of mechanism built into the game.
Oh yeah, they put, so with Vecna, they put in, one of his things is there'll be chests around the map, and depending on what you roll on the dice, like if you fail, you'll get a mimic that appears. There's like loads of D&D little like what are they called? Like hints to D&D and games and stuff that you see that some people will clock and be like, oh yeah, that's a D&D. There's a beholder on the map that you have to find. There's like loads of fun things that are just like hidden. Yeah, it's really cool.
Can I just share an interesting experience that I had recently, actually? Because I went to Insomnia, the last Insomnia in the UK, which is like a gaming festival here. They had a life-sized D&D session that I was able to go along to, and it was like the cutest thing. I had to quit it early, unfortunately, but here's what happened in that. I had to quit it early to go to like a zombie run around, just shoot at zombies and not get eaten kind of experience afterwards. And they didn't allow enough time to do both, unfortunately. But I was there as like a feature creator, so they had us in there for like the creator session, and I got halfway through, ran out of time. There were 2 opposing sides going through like a mirrored map, and you had to get there and like defeat something faster and then claim a prize before the other team did. I felt terrible because I had to leave in the middle of it. And so just before I left, though, I believe I was mage, wizard, or sorcerer. I was a sorcerer at the time, and I found this sword. That apparently was just there, and the sword whispered to me, "Feed me blood." And so I thought, this is an amazing opportunity here to take myself out of the game and give the rest of the team something that would very, very much help them. So my next action, without explaining anything to anyone, is like just turning to the rest of these people who I hadn't, like, I'd only met like 20 minutes before, being like, I'm sorry, but you'll understand why I needed to do this. Take the sword and just ram it through my own chest, killing my character. And then like removing myself from the game. The only thing is, I will never know if they ended up winning that game or how that game ended. But in my head, they had an incredibly powerful weapon, and they absolutely smashed it. So that's something well, I'll never find out what happened, but yeah, it was a really, really cool experience there, and I want to see more stuff like that. Speaking of more like interesting, weird. Oh, go on, Robin.
I have something to input into the conversation, sir.
Yeah, go ahead.
I have two of my favorite sort of D&D spin-offs. Not actually, I haven't played D&D. Mine is the above conversation of just doing the math part of it. At the moment in New York City, but I believe it's been in Chicago as well, but there's the 20-Sided Tavern that is going on currently, which is a live theatrical experience in NYC, where the audience, and I don't quite understand this bit, but it's app-based or web app-based, but the audience can kind of choose the direction of the story, and the actors on stage kind of yes and the situation, and it's all based on voting that goes on screens behind them and stuff. So that's pretty cool. So yeah, props to that. I mean, again, anything that kind of puts stuff on Broadway always makes me smile. But the last one, and you will not be surprised by this, Mia, but my favorite D&D thing is actually in Borderlands.
Oh my god! Yeah, I knew it.
Which is Tiny Tina's Wonderlands.
I completely forgot about Tina's.
Truly one of the best experiences in my life.
Oh, it's so good, because it's a story that needed to be told, and the way that they choose to tell, essentially Tina going through this and the characters
Yeah.
helping Tina understand
Yeah.
what has happened. It really, I definitely cried at the end of that one.
It's
That was
beautiful.
hard. Yeah.
It's genuinely beautiful. And I think it's one of those things that we said about how sort of D&D can help you with through stuff. I mean, this is literally someone, I mean, it's true Borderlands style. Like it's all looty shooty, collecty and chaos, but deep down it's someone going through trauma and playing the game to deal with the trauma of losing someone that meant so much to them. But the actual way it's told and the mechanics doesn't lose any of the Borderlands, but brings in so much the kind of the D&D mechanisms and stuff as well.
So I never finished that game, so thank you for that interesting tidbit right there. But like, yeah, I was really impressed by what I had played of it. I don't necessarily want to spoil anything more, but I know we've had specific like voice actors from that too who absolutely enjoyed their time working on that, and it just looked all around like a wonderful experience in the way that they like interpret certain things and recontextualize stuff in the Borderlands world into that space too. Is just,
and
is
they
so
also
good.
had you have the kind of standard you have the standard Borderlands sort of setup of a first-person shooter, but then to get between the worlds, you have like a kind of basically a tabletop kind of map minifigure experience where you navigate the minifigures around, and it goes into like a 3D view of little characters running around doing silly things as well. It's just amazing.
Off topic, but are you looking forward to that Borderlands movie?
No.
I'm so glad he just said
and
that straight out, because
I can go through many reasons why it's been horribly miscast.
We'll have to find time on another podcast to talk about that specifically. But oh, really? Okay, well, check that out on
I was so angry.
GamingMag.com.
I took to my own website and wrote something.
So spin-offs. What other spin-offs should there be? Like, what other spin-offs would you want to see? I definitely want to see a Dungeons and Dragons style escape room. Personally, I think that would be very good, like an official one, an official capacity. Because like playing that life-sized,
you just can't get out until you roll a 20. Just like, come on.
Yeah, that's it.
I love that idea. But I could tell you right now, everyone is going to think there's something wrong with one of the doors or one of the chairs, and we will sit there for hours looking at the most mundane stuff.
A door is already an escape room.
Everything's a mimic. I can't touch anything. Everything's a mimic.
I have had the everything's a mimic again with the DC one shots. I stuck my face through a window to go look and see what was going on inside and got chomped. By a 20-foot tall window just chomped me.
Was a mimic.
In the face. Okay. The window was a mimic.
Because we thought for sure the door is not the way to go. And, well, okay.
Oh my god, the whole house is a mimic. You're actively being digested right now. Right, so, yes, what spin-offs would you want to see? Anybody can jump in on this.
I would love for, I would love to see, I miss the concept of the miniseries, and I think a lot of streaming services are now understanding with certain IPs that a limited series is a great way to tell like a big story. I mean, whether you put it into multiple seasons or not. And I would love a lot of the like the D&D paperback novels that we grew up with. I would love if they were able to adapt some of those stories into like just a mini series. It doesn't have to last forever. It doesn't have to be 10 episodes, but it would be really fun to see them tackle that in that entertainment medium. And, you know, a lot of those stories were really great. It's just, it's hard to advertise, hey, read this 30-year-old paperback to somebody who's just now getting into like 5th edition D&D.
Definitely. So like more like that. What about it? What is there any other spin-offs we would want to see?
I don't know. I like the idea of the miniseries thing, but I think there's so much of it. There's so much of it out there right now that centers around D&D that's like there's almost a saturation. So okay. I'm kind of with Herb just to have that.
Let's go with this miniseries idea. who would you want to see in that miniseries? Like any actor, fan casting. Let's say.
I don't know how to do fan casting. Everyone
No
hot.
fan casting.
Everyone hot.
Everyone hot.
What is it? Jack Black, Kate Blanchett.
Oh my god!
How are you ready for this? How are you?
It's just listing off the Borderlands cast. That's all they're doing.
Wow.
That's the new one, the Tiny Tina's Wonderlands miniseries coming soon. Yeah, no. God, what's the name of that guy who played Superman? What's the name of the guy who played Superman? Geralt.
Henry Cavill.
Henry Cavill.
He's too busy dealing with Warhammer right now.
There's some problems there.
Yeah. And being a new
That's
papa,
fine,
so congrats to him.
Yes.
Yes, and I think he's still melting down the internet from when he built a PC in a tank top or something. Tank top vest. That's what I meant, not tank top.
Yeah.
Just reminding me to go and rewatch that video. Jack Quaid. I'd watch Jack Quaid in something D&D related. Yeah, totally.
Take the D&D movie cast and give them a mini series to continue this show. Because that was so funny.
I don't know what plans they have, if they have any plans to continue developing movies, because of the weird initial reception for Honor Among Thieves, and then how it, like a lot of things, it just needed time to cook, and now everyone's like, wait, this movie's great, why didn't we watch it? That's there was a pandemic. I would love it if they were able to to spin that into a sequel. That would be fantastic, because it was really, really a fun romp and had great it had a love for the source material that I will say some of the older D&D movies did not.
Yeah.
Oh, it felt like you were watching a D&D campaign.
Exactly.
Like, you knew when the natural ones got rolled.
Again, I mentioned this to Wes earlier. Like, I only saw that like one clip, and I'm like, this is the most D&D campaign thing I've ever seen. Like, ridiculous.
It really like that. Even though that's one scene that's going around forever, like that kind of imaginative way of using what are like spells as written in D&D is exactly what people around tables do all the time. You're like, well, I want to do this with this. And of course, a good DM says, oh yeah, that sounds great. Let's go with it. Yeah, it was fabulous.
My idea for a crossover, and I know that Brian, you'll be sort of alongside me on this one because we've had conversations about it previously, but Star Trek Strange New Worlds has a nasty habit recently of doing crossovers with musicals and their own animated series. So what if we had a Star Trek Strange New World crossover D&D? You sort of had that in the first season, because there was that episode where they went into a storybook which had kind of Kings of the Knights and that sort of. And
their Star Trek Lower Decks actually introduced the fact that there is a Klingon tabletop role-playing game that exists in the universe.
Batlets and
it's funny because they play it similar to those old like games on DVD and games on VHS. Like that's how it's played.
That's amazing, because I actually used to have like a Next Generation VHS one of those games.
That is it's like a callback to that game, but it's D&D, and it's I would love to see the fact that they still play some kind of tabletop role-playing game in the Star Trek future. That would be amazing.
Batleth and Bimax. I just looked it up.
And everybody on Star Trek Strange New Worlds is hot, so that satisfies my first requirement.
Yeah. Perfect. In Star Trek Discovery, they filmed season 3, the one they did under lockdown, and a way of keeping all the cast kind of virtually together when they weren't allowed to be together is they just ran this huge D&D campaign throughout the entirety of, like, whenever they were off stage or running the campaign. When they were all sat in their own trailers and they couldn't be physically together, so they were physically together through the power of D&D.
That's really cool. All right, Ryan, spin-offs. What do you want to see?
I agree with TV and film. I think more TV and film. What I studied for university was directing, producing. So like I would love to see more like TV and film that's inspired by D&D stories or lore. The movie was so good. They better do another one, or even like just a TV show. I feel like there's so much you could put into a TV show with all the like references and lore. I'd really love to see more of that.
I'm waiting for the Doctor Who cross D&D crossover.
Obviously.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good. I think that's what I choose.
After that recent episode where there was a distinct call out to D&D, I kind of shrieked when that happened in episode 6 of the new season for anyone for like no spoilers, but that was so good.
It's quite interesting, and it could happen considering that they've kind of shifted like the idea of the series now to be less sci-fi and more sci-fi and like fantasy kind of stuff. So they're like they could totally do it. They could totally like just have a whole ass D&D episode. I mean, the toy maker's been around. That's probably something he would make happen. So yeah. That'd be pretty cool. That'd be pretty pog. I'm never saying that again. Jesus.
I was wondering.
God damn. Sorry, that's the Twitch in me. God damn. Sorry, Robert, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, I was just gonna sort of put a cherry on top of this wonderful conversation by saying we have got to the end of our main sort of chatty segment. So my next obvious question to everybody, we'll take it in turns and we'll go with Herb first. But where can people find you, and what have you got coming up with your campaigns, with your streams? What is going on that people can get involved in?
Currently not in any campaigns, though I am looking to start a home game. Somebody's invited me to that, so I'm seeing if the schedule works out. But you can mostly find me on Twitch as there it is, as Urban Bohemian, pretty much everywhere on the internet. I stream on Twitch weekend mornings and Tuesday evenings Eastern time.
Fantastic. Ryan?
So I don't have any campaigns either, although we are going to be starting that up more in my community, so that'll be fun. I don't really have a lot coming up. I'm celebrating 4 years of streaming on Tuesday, which is wild. I can't believe it's been 4 years. But you can find me at twitch.tv/JustRyan, which is right there. And yeah.
Heck yeah.
Fantastic.
And Panda?
You can find me at AwkwardishPanda everywhere on the internet. I mostly stream on Twitch. I've basically become a professional mini painter at this point. It's what I do. You can catch me in person at the Nova Open in DC at the end of August. It's Labor Day weekend. It's a 5-day convention. Yes, I know, Herb, it makes no sense. They moved it and just chose not to change the name. So I will be there for the Capital Palette Commission competition and a bunch of stuff. It's a 5-day convention. It's a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to getting to see some friends I haven't seen since March. In October, you can catch me at the birthplace of D&D, Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, where I'm going to be at a tabletop and wargaming convention, also for competitions and stuff. And then that's kind of it for the rest of this year. And then next March, I will be at Adepticon up in Wisconsin with all of the, oh Lord, I have so many minis to paint.
Hell yes. I love that. I love that for you, though. I absolutely love it for you. Right. So before we wrap up here, we're just going to quickly move on to our ending section, a newer ending section called Show Me What You Got. Now, I'm going to forego showing you what I've got because right now what I've got is illness. So we're going to skip past that. Yeah, I've been showcasing it. It's been the best and the worst thing for me. So yeah, so we're just gonna in the reverse order. We're gonna go down the line, so starting with Panda and then working our way backwards. Panda, Ryan.
For technical reasons of Panda.
No, go ahead.
Reasons of this is the order that I've got the pictures arranged in.
Okay. Sorry, Robin. You know what, Robin? You can take charge of this section, and you let everybody know what order we're going in.
You're gonna go first, please.
Okay. I've already forgotten what I sent you. Oh, right. I sent these screenshots of my character in Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms. It's a Dungeons and Dragons based video game, and it is my character from Rivals of Waterdeep, and also Eugenio's character, DM Jazzy Hands, Virgil and Kent. And it was just one of those lovely. Like, I've played the game tons myself, and the fact that they approached Rivals of Waterdeep and wanted to put our characters in the game, it was just kind of like, like both the tabletop and the video game loves combining. So I love that. And then I also like going into their game Discord because they'll say they like using my character in their formations. And these are the custom dice that are for my character. Every cast member of Rivals of Waterdeep had custom dice that kind of match their characters' themes. And these are my dice, which I don't actually have with me. I did bring dice with me, but I don't have these because I fly and those always get flagged when I go through security.
Yeah. Those are in your safe right now. They're like locked up tight in like a very special location. I will say though, how goddamn cool is it to have a character that you like created like in something like that? It's so
It
cool.
is. I honestly sometimes never shut up about it. It's very cool.
Absolutely.
Panda, you're up next, please.
I brought two things. So one, I have this gigantic Trapper Keeper because I've never got one as a kid because I couldn't afford them back when they were like $50, and they did the redo 90 ones. So I have a ridiculous Trapper Keeper. This is my D&D like Bible. This has all of my stuff for all of the campaigns that I'm in on stream and off, or most of the stuff off stream, some of the on stream stuff, homebrew rules. So I love this. And then with this is my favorite set of dice that I just got that inspired the character for our current home campaign. And I sent Robin a picture because I don't know how well they're going to show up on camera. But they're these really pretty like raspberry and gold with mint letters.
Oh,
from
so
Fungal
cool.
Forge dice. There you go. There's the better picture
wow.
of what they look like. I fell in love with these, and I was like, I can't afford them because it's a one-off set. And I just like, you know what? I'm gonna throw them on my throne wish list. If somebody wants to get them for me, great. And one of my friends immediately sent them to me, like 10 seconds later. So I was like, you know what? I will color my entire new character for this home campaign after her. So all of the minis I have for my character at home are painted like these colors to match. But Fungal Forge dice is just, her stuff is amazing, and she does dice drops like every 2 weeks. They've become my new favorite dice. They're really big letters, so they're easy to read, because when you have bad eyesight and you're trying to roll in the middle of a table, it's great. But they're my favorite dice. I love my little home game. It's nice to have something that's not for public consumption, because so much of the TTRPG stuff I've done over the last couple of years has been. So it's nice to just have a home game. Two of our players are brand new, and like their first campaign was the campaign we met them through, and it was like a 6-week campaign. So
I love that.
And it's fun because they don't know what they're doing, so they just jump right in and are like, "Can I do this?" And when it's either yes or no.
I absolutely adore the high contrast as well between the actual dice and the numbers too. I really do appreciate
They're
that.
so pretty. I love them a lot.
Ryan, what did you bring?
So something different. I was a part of Dead by Daylight's Into the Rainbow event, raising money for the Trevor Project. They do this every year. They raise money for the Trevor Project, and they play DBD with a bunch of content creators. It was a lot of fun. I was so honored to be asked, because Dead by Daylight is a game that I met a lot of my community through. It's what grew me on Twitch. And to be asked to be the face of this stream and to be one of the members, to be a part of it, was just such a huge honor. And I was just very grateful. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
That's so cool. Absolutely. Robin, did you have something that you wanted to show today?
I do. It seems on brand to show this. Now, I will, for obvious ethical reasons, say that Fanroll Dice are currently advertising on Gayming magazine, and they are advertising their Rolling with Pride collection, which includes this wonderful leather, definitely leather. It wasn't leatherette. This beautiful leather dice tray with a wonderful collection of die. They're available in multiple, let me put this back on, I've got too many things in my hand. They're available in all the different flags of spectrums and all the different kind of parts of our wonderful community. So we have examples of like with non-binary, bisexual, transgender, all of the flags are represented in these fantastic dice, and the Pride flag dice tray. And yeah, they're really, really cool. And one day I will get to use them and actually play a campaign rather than just sitting here with a pencil.
We'll get that sorted. We'll get it sorted. We can do that. We can
Yes.
arrange that. We keep saying it, but we can arrange that. Listen, we'll talk about it, Robin. We'll talk about it. Here's something fun. I actually do have something to show you.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I literally just removed this from my body. So, again, have fun with this. But this is the socks that I'm wearing, which says, just by happenstance, it says "You Jelly" on the side, and it is the gelatinous cube.
Those are amazing.
Socks.
I love that.
Love an ooze.
These are from a little British company here called GameTea. So it's gametea.co.uk, and they had this, and it comes with a dice set with it as well. So I have like I don't have the dice on me, unfortunately, they're upstairs somewhere. But yeah, they come with like a matching die set, which are like these green die with like very shimmery inside. So that was amazing. My foot is cold now, but there we go. I have something to show at the end there. But yeah, what a weirdly fantastic way to end the episode. Thank you.
I was so worried about what you were about to pull out. I genuinely was. I thought it was
pulled out worse on this show, believe me.
The D&D spin-off that nobody was asking for. Well, they probably are in certain parts of it.
Anywho, thank you everybody for joining us today. This has been amazing, and I hope you had fun. It's not every day that you get to see somebody pull off their sock in the middle of a podcast, but I guess here we are.
Fair, very true.
Mm-hmm. I want to say a massive thank you to everybody for joining us on this episode of the Gaming Podcast.
Yes, and as Mia said earlier, we have live streaming content coming up for the remainder of DigiPride, so that's another couple of weeks. So make sure to go and follow Gaming Mag channels here on Twitch, on YouTube, on TikTok, so you don't miss any of these amazing shows. If you are in London or you live near London, for the next 2 weeks on Thursdays, we are at the Red Bull Gaming Sphere for a live show that we broadcast here on Twitch for an hour and a half, but then there's going to be an after party with gameplay stations and everything else. There's free drinks provided. It's a sober space. It's all the Red Bull flavors because, of course, it's sponsored by Red Bull. And we have wonderful prizes, merchandise. We are playing Inotria, the last song, in 1 week. That's this week coming. And there's a masquerade. It's a masquerade ball. And next week is all about the Crush House, which is a new game from Devolver Digital, and there is merch galore being given away. So all of that for £5 per event. So do come along.
Yeah, I've been there, like the Red Bull Gaming Sphere. Absolutely fantastic location, can I say? I was there for the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth launch party.
Fantastic.
It was great. Definitely worth it for a £5 if you're in the area. Just pop on in. It's wonderful. Yeah.
Absolutely. Go to gamemag.com/digipride. Scroll down to where it says live events, and there are 2 ticket links, and you can go and grab as many tickets as you want, up to 150, because that's what the capacity of the venue is. So thank you for that. And of course, if your podcasts are available, sorry, I left the panel. Podcasts are available and on wherever you get your podcasts. And
all major platforms.
Anywhere you can buy a podcast with it. And if you're listening there, come on over and watch all the fun. And you can see the show and tell stuff that we always sort of not really audio accessible, I suppose.
Embrace the chaos. Come and watch us live. And if you're watching us live now, hit that follow button. If you're here for the first time, we do this like every week or every other week at this point. Hit that follow button. Hit the follow button. Check out all of the stuff that's happening on DigiPride this season by going to gamingmag.com/DigiPride. Check out everything that's happening for the rest of the season. And again, thanks to our presenting partner, Giamma Games, and our sponsors, Devolver Digital and Wizards of the Coast. We're going to be seeing you next week for another podcast episode, of course, and we're going to be back on Wednesday with a Juneteenth special with Black Girl Gamers. And are we not on Tuesday? I thought we were also on Tuesday.
No, we're taking a break, considering everything.
We're taking a break.
Okay. And the stuff we've got.
Yeah,
and then of course,
there's a lot happening.
Next Tuesday, so 25th.
Yes.
Something to look forward to there, with many, many wonderful people being nominated for many, many wonderful things.
Yeah, also being streamed on IGN as well.
Yes,
which is
IGN Summer of Gaming.
Fantastic. Yeah. Well, that wraps us up for this podcast. Until then, don't forget to keep reading, watching Gaming Magazine, see all the things, do all the things, and we'll see you next time. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Happy Pride!
Happy Pride!
Happy Pride.